Hello, you're watching CyberDoc. Today, this video is going to be a repair for iPhone 5, backlight coil, backlight IC, and 3 backlight filter changes and replacement for iPhone 5 logic board. So as you can see right now in the video, you have the iPhone 5 logic board that's being exposed. The upper metal shielding is being removed with QuickAlloy or CyberDoc alloy. You can find from cyberdocllc.com. So, and there's also another video showing you how to use the alloy that's in picture to safely remove the heat shield frame from iPhone 5 logic board. And you can see that little coil in the middle. That's the old iPhone 5 backlight coil that's being removed with QuickAlloy. There's also our flux in the video, and now you can also see the solder wick that's on the side. It's made of copper. It was used to remove the metal shielding. So as you well know, that iPhone 5, Apple started to solder the heat shield onto the logic board, which kind of silly because it actually increased their production cost. I'm not sure what was the purpose of this. Maybe to prevent people from tampering with the logic board or competitor from reverse engineering it. Whichever way, it will make this repair a little bit more hindrance due to the fact that you have to first desolder the heat shield successfully without damaging any components before it can reach the logic board components, such as the backlight IC, which the tweezer is holding right now. So just use the low temperature melting QuickAlloy from cyberdocllc.com. You can easily remove it, like the metal shield solder. So right now, the backlight IC is being placed onto the logic board. You want to be careful of this IC because it does have an orientation and polarity charge. So you want to line the side with the lines with the same side that was on the board. If you're not sure, you can either look at another logic board with the same correct orientation, or go on our website cyberdocllc.com and refer to the picture that we have on our website, and visit our solution website if you want to sign up as a member at iPhonebacklight.com. For example, this repair video and many other SMD iPhone iPad repair solution will be posted and first posted in iPhonebacklight.com as it's being worked out by us. Okay, so basically at this stage of the repair, the iPhone backlight coil and iPhone 5 backlight IC is already been removed from the board with QuickAlloy. Now I'm placing a new one. I just placed the new IC onto the logic board, and now you just put it into the correct orientation. You do this under a microscope. I mean, you can do this without a microscope, but I wouldn't do it. I like to see what I'm doing. So buy a microscope. I made a video, in case of those of you wondering what microscope to buy. I made a video on a very cheap microscope for like $200 USD that I use in this repair video. I had a video for that, so search for it. Just go to my videos and search for the microscopes review video I made. You can get that from Amazon.com. It's an M-scope microscope. Or you can get an upgrade version, which is about $800 USD, which in my opinion, it's worth it to get the better version. But or you could just stick with the economic $200 version of the M-scope microscope. It's a stereo microscope. You only need a 10 to 20 zoom lenses. You're pretty much gonna use all times 10. You're rarely gonna use times 20 for soldering. Okay, so the new iPhone 5 backlight IC is being placed onto the logic board. To remove it, it's actually pretty, well, it's difficult without the right tool or the right material. But with QuickAlloy, it's actually pretty easy to remove. You just put a little teeny bit of alloy and then you put it on next to it. you use the soldering iron, use a very fine tip soldering iron to heat it out to the close enough proximity, and then you heat blast it with flux. Always use flux. Always use good quality flux. You can get the very good quality flux from our website, cyber.ilc.com, or you could buy somewhere else. But do not use anything that's sold in China. And I don't know what's wrong with the Chinese vendors or whoever make those flux. They have no fucking... Sorry, I just used the wrong word. They have no freaking idea what they're doing with the flux formulation. I don't know what is it in those flux. It's horrible. So yeah, you use only flux that's made in USA, or just buy from us. All our flux is made and produced in USA, and not from China. Because I had past experience with Chinese flux. They're just horrible. Maybe there's some good Chinese flux. I don't know. I just never had any experience with it. Okay, so anyway, just get good flux. Get good RMA or any RMA rosin based or synthetic no cling flux. So once you put down the component, I apologize for the angle of the camera, it's pretty much blocking it. You put the components onto a proximal location. You already have some low melting alloy from QuickAlloy, Cyber.alloy that's already on the board. Now you just heat out the component with flux, the new component, the new backlight coil and IC, and it will adhere to the alloy. And you don't, for this step, you don't even need very high temperature to do this, because the alloy melts around 60 degrees Celsius anyway. So anything above 60 degrees Celsius, which is like a hot air blower dryer temperature, will melt the alloy and let you solder this component in place. So I usually like to set my soldering hot air to 200 degrees Celsius or 250. So now the hot air soldering process is done. Oh, by the way, if you had a heat plate, you could have used a heat plate for this process too. It's probably easier. Or soldering oven. Anywho, so the soldering process is done. Now I'm just currently in the video, I'm inspecting the soldering job by using a pink pick. Gently push it, see if it's soldered on. And while the solder is still molten, so you can see the component moved a little bit, but you always want to examine visually with a microscope. That's why it's so important to have a good stereo microscope in your workbench. To do this with naked eyes, it's hard. You're almost working up almost blind stage because the backlight chip is so small. The coil, you probably could solder this with, without any magnification. But for the filters and for the backlight chip for iPhone 5, it's near impossible to see. And I have perfect vision 2020, and I can't even do this without microscope assist. So now once you're done with the soldering job, you're happy with the results, you want to brush it and clean it with ethanol alcohol or isopropyl alcohol if you cannot find ethanol alcohol. They usually sell it in ethanol alcohol. It's really kind of pure vodka with a little tint of benzene. Benzene is toxic, so people call it ethyl alcohol, but it's really not 100% ethyl alcohol because it's technically toxic, so don't drink those. If you want to spend a lot of money and clean this with vodka, you could do it, but nah, don't waste vodka. Just use isopropyl alcohol, ethyl alcohol if you can find it. Ethyl alcohol smells a little bit better than isopropyl alcohol. That's the only difference, I think. Also a little bit more stable. Okay, now I'm positioning the logic board in the video to locate the 3 backlight filters. iPhone 5 is funny. The previous iPhones only have 2 filters, which makes sense. Electricity goes into the screen, through the logic board, through one filter, and then it comes out from the screen because once it goes in the screen, it has to come out, and it goes through another second filter on iPhone 4 and iPhone 4S, or in the previous generation of iPhones. I suspect it's due to the fact that iPhone 5 has a Retina. Well, maybe it's not because iPhone 4S has Retina screen, but maybe it's because the bigger screen or whichever, it requires more power regulation and more power current. I know for a fact that the iPhone 5 coil generates much higher inductance and voltage through it, so it literally gives more power. So maybe that's why the filter require more than one filter to complete the circuit. You just require more tracks. So as such, when you do this repair, you want to replace all these parts, especially if they corroded, like in this example, in this iPhone. You definitely want to replace all 3 filters. Now I'm pointing out the location of those filters. If you want to know the location of these filters, you can visit our website, cyberdarkllc.com. Again, the cyberdarkllc.com. Next to the item for iPhone 5 backlight repair kit, so the picture of where the filters are located and any other associated part to backlight circuitry. And all this is possible with these solutions. You can also find them before they even being posted on cyberdarkllc.com at our sister site, iPhonebacklight.com. And this is a new site we're experimenting with posting all and every iPhone, iPad, even some of the MacBook Pro soldering and rework solutions and guides on iPhonebacklight.com. So check it out. It is a paid subscription member site, so just check out the site. It's called iPhonebacklight.com. And if you need any parts or soldering equipment, soldering parts, for example, QuickAlloy is our product line for low melting solder alloy for desoldering and soldering. You can find it on cyberdarkllc.com. Also, the flux that we use in all our repairs, you can also find in cyberdarkllc.com. Again, we use only US made flux, and yeah, we have several different lines of flux, so you want to experiment, see which one works best for you. In my opinion, they all work pretty much about the same. It just depends on what color and smoke you prefer. So what I did here to the backlight filter now is I put a bit of flux on it and put a little teeny weeny piece of the QuickAlloy, a chunk of it, a little piece next to it. You don't want too much because it's gonna make solder bridges to these neighboring components. So you just heat up the solder and then you heat up next to the component and you will desolder it in no time. Provided you use QuickAlloy, not you use a CyberDark low melting alloy. You do not use regular leaded alloy. That will destroy your board. You will literally solder that alloy onto the board and you have no way to clean it. Only use low melting temperature CyberDark alloy to desolder. Also, provided you have good flux. If you use crappy flux, then sorry, your board is gonna get destroyed. Most flux are corrosive and most flux are very sticky. Also, it makes burning residue. I don't know why the Chinese flux make burning residues. So don't use those flux. Use good flux. Okay, so yeah, and then you can remove those little filters, there's 3 of them, without damaging the logic board. You do not want to lift these pads because they're very, very sensitive copper trace pads. Any excess pressure, meaning if you don't have a right temperature or using a desoldering alloy tool, you're gonna break those pads when you're using a tweezer to mess with it. So you really need to make sure those filter needs to be removed clean and properly. There are other ways to do it, but I prefer the way I'm doing this video. You can also use a soldering tweezer, but in my experience, the soldering tweezer actually generates way too much heat, and it's not exactly precise. You either heat up too much or heat up too little, and then you end up damaging these little filters. They're very little. To use a microscope. The reason I didn't notice my hand is blocking the entire view while I was recording is because I'm using a microscope, and all I can see is I see the filter. I didn't pay attention to the big camera, so well, not that you can see what's going on anyway, even if the hand is not blocking. So just bear with me and imagine that you're seeing the filter being soldered. Check out my other video. I think I'm gonna upload soon once I can find it, because I did this repair a while back. I did this recording a while back, and I need to look for the microscopic version view of this repair. I also recorded that. I'm gonna upload that soon as I can annotate that video as well. So there's not that much to it. It's really just flux on, desoldering alloy from cyberLC.com. You put that on and you solder, heat it up, then desolder it. And once it's desoldered, the residue solder is good to use. So you put the new parts on and you heat it up with hot air, low temperature. You don't need, well, you could use high temperature if you want, but why risk it? Or you could, yeah, actually risk it. It will speed up the process. It's not like it's gonna damage the component. You can even use 300 degrees Celsius hot air gun all you like. Because the temperature, actual temperature coming out of the hot air gun is not going to be 300 degrees. If you set at 300 degrees, it's probably going to be like 200 something degrees. So you could play with that measurement when you do this rework soldering. So once it's clean, what I'm doing now is I'm using ethyl alcohol again with a toothbrush. This is a Sonicare cleaner, I think. Yeah, Sonicare toothbrush. You don't need the Sonic part. It will make a mess, but you could use the Sonic part. I choose this toothbrush because the brush head is very fine and soft, and it's just what I happen to have. So you don't necessarily need this toothbrush. You can use an toothbrush. You don't really need to worry static charge that much, because after all, I'm using ethyl alcohol on a giant metal, I guess, ground. The whole thing is made, the aluminum tray underneath is a giant metal sink, so there's no way you can make static charge on top of that thing. Besides, the battery is not plugged in, so the static charge is not going to damage any of these components as long as nothing is plugged in. You don't need to worry about if the circuit is open. And also, you're very well grounded. For example, you're working on the ground, so yeah. Don't worry about toothbrushes too much. So at this stage of the repair, I am unwrapping the 3 backlight filters. Careful with these filters, they're very, very small, so take them out under microscope, put it on top of a white piece of paper. Whatever you do, just keep them in place, or even work them on a magnetic chart or magnet. You can, oh, by the way, you can also buy those magnet for iPhone 5 disassembly from cyber.lc.com like that. And those magnets are actually very good at opening these small SMD components on top of, because the background is white and they're magnetic, so those parts isn't gonna fly away. For example, if you're changing a coil or a small teeny filter, when you open those paper packaging, you're not careful, they're gonna fly. And when they do fly, you will never find them, and you have to order another one, which is a hassle. all by itself. So get some of those magnets, magnet charts from wherever you get it. Doesn't really matter, but you can get it from cyber.lc.com and open your components on top of it. They wouldn't fly so far if they ground down to the magnet. And actually, it could be potentially advantageous to magnetize those little teeny filters. You won't damage them from magnets. Again, magnet can damage anything on this logic board. I don't know who came out with the crazy idea that magneticity can damage the logic board. Nonsense. They need to go back to elementary school. Anyways, there's no movable part on iPhone 5, so you can damage anything with magnet. So anyways, you charge up the components and then you put on the iPhone 5, which is gonna hopefully is gonna adhere to the solder pads. So right now, or you could use flux, like a tacky flux I'm using. You put a bit of flux and you put the teeny filter on top so they don't fly away. And since the flux is kind of sticky, it's gonna stick the parts onto the logic board. And all you have to do is just use 2 pins or 2 needles to orient the filter. This filter has no orientation preference, so you don't need to worry about polarity here. As long as they're aligned to the proximal location of the solder pad, you're good to go. And once you have done that, do all 3 of them or do it one by one. It's up to you. I did it one by one in this video, but you can very well do all 3 of them if you're short on time. Then you heat it up. You heat it up to, I set it to 250 or 200 degrees Celsius. And I'm pretty sure the heat coming out is probably around 100 degrees Celsius. I don't know. You want to play with your heat gun. Your heat gun and this heat gun is not going to have the same profile. The important thing is you want to go over 300 degrees Celsius because that will start burning off the parts on the board. The logic board from Apple is designed to withstand within 300 degrees Celsius. So it's not going to damage at 300, but if you go out to 400 degrees or 350, there's a chance you might start burning off stuff. So don't go that high. Hence comes back to the importance of the lower melting solder we use in this video. I honestly don't know how to do rework anymore without this, without low melting solder. I probably wouldn't want to do this repair if all I got is a hot air gun and soldering iron. The tip must be really fine otherwise. It will be really hard because these things are so teeny and so they're so fragile. The solder pad on these are so fragile. Don't use too much force on it. Just gently brush it, like brushing. Just imagine you're brushing yourself gently on the skin. Light. You don't really need to heat up that long. In the video is just for demonstrative purpose, so I heat out a long time. But in reality, when you actually do this without getting recorded all the time, you can heat it up at high temperature right away and get it done. Right now, I'm really just the advantage of heating it long because you get all the solder molten and in liquid form, hence you get a much better bonding at it. Always resupply your flux if your flux runs dry on the board. The flux itself is gonna activate the metal, or in other words, it's gonna deoxidate the metal used by the activate acid inside. And it also, more importantly in this repair, since the flux I use doesn't really have very strong acid in it by definition, because there's no clean flux, no acid in there, it's just weak acid. More importantly, the flux is there to conduct heat, to supply equal distribution of the heat to the component you want to solder. So yeah, in surface mount component soldering, the flux doesn't serve the same purpose as welding per se, because you don't really use hydrochloric acid on. You don't want to use hydrochloric acid on it, otherwise it will eat through the board slowly, not right away. So, and now I'm cleaning the board again with ethyl alcohol. If you don't have ethyl alcohol, use isopropyl alcohol. It's just fine. It only smells a little bit weird with isopropyl alcohol. And that's pretty much it. The repair is finished. Now I'm just doing almost unnecessary cleaning. It depends on the flux you use. I'm a little superstitious, so I always clean my board. I don't really like to have a gunk of flux on it, but it's up to you. It's better to do that because either way the flux has some acid in it, so it's best to clean it. No clean or not. Doesn't matter what formulation, flux or flux. Flux need to have a little bit of acid. And that's the end of the repair. So what I did in this repair is I soldered onto, you see the little black square? I soldered on the backlight coil for iPhone 5, backlight IC chip, and 3 iPhone 5 backlight filters. Thank you for watching. I will see you in my next repair. You could post your comment below if you have any questions or any suggestions or any future repair requests or tutorials. Again, visit my website cyber.llc.com for more repair parts or solutions. Also, my other website, iPhoneBacklight.com, for more repair solutions and updates, and it's a community-based forum as well. However, it is a pay membership site, so it's not exactly free all the time. There are some repair solutions on iPhone Backlight that's retired, and those are free to public domain, and you can check those out and enjoy the video. Thank you for watching. I will see you next time. Oh, forgot about this part. For those of you still watching, this is iPhone 5 backlight coil. It comes in plastic packaging. If you buy from us, cyber.llc.com. I can't stress that enough. It's hard to say, I guess. Okay, anyway, so this is the iPhone 5 backlight IC. It comes in black packaging. It's very small, but it's not as small as the iPhone 5 backlight filters. You will need 3 of these for each iPhone 5. You might want to buy more just in case they fly away. They are very small, they do tend to fly, or do it on a magnet. Alright, so that will be all. Thank you, folks. Thank you, folks.